Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I'm improvising because I didn't expect to have a handheld microphone, but I'll make it work. Martin Luther King Jr. said a long time ago that we have guided missiles but misguided men. And what Dr. King was referring to is that we spend so much time focusing on systems and institutions, so the external environment, that we often neglect focusing on the need to change our internal environment. The purpose of this talk is to discuss how mindfulness can free us from barriers or boundaries that prevent us from seeing our true self. And if I can see my true self, then I can view the world from someone else, which is inclusion. So inclusion or inclusivity is really freedom from the barriers or boundaries that prevents us from seeing ourselves and seeing the world from the eyes of the other. So what are some of the causes of barriers to seeing our true self and barriers to seeing the world from the eyes of the other? I would argue that it's trauma and aspects of intergenerational trauma. So what is trauma? Trauma is an event that is so serious and so emotional that it overwhelms one's ability to cope. So for example, I was in a law school at Boston College when there was the O.J. Simpson trial. And if any of you can recall that, there was a lot of racial tension about that trial across the country. So at the time of the verdict, I was in Boston College's student lounge, and I was the only African American in the student lounge at that time. When the verdict actually was announced, CNN immediately showed a group of students at Howard University, so it was a group of all African American students, that were celebrating the outcome of the verdict. I too, at that moment, wanted to express some aspect of joy or appreciation for our justice system. But being the only African American in the student lounge of all other white students, I went from feeling safe and comfortable in that environment to feeling very fearful. I knew that I could not express an emotion of joy or appreciation because in that moment, it would out me as being black. In that moment, I went from feeling safe to feeling fearful, and my fight or flight response kicks in. The body starts releasing hormones and cortisol, and physically within myself, I'm experiencing discomfort, and my mind is feeling fear. At that moment, I'm actually making a decision to not view my complete self. I'm making a decision in that moment to not view myself as being black. In that moment, I'm deciding to freeze. At that moment, I'm trying to prevent others from also seeing me as being black. The experience of viewing an external environment and seeing it as being hostile based on my race, it was not unique to that moment. I went to Bucknell University for college, and I can recall the first day of classes thinking this environment's racist, there's no other black students here. And when you have a thought or a belief, there's a tendency to look for things that affirm that thought or belief. So I walk into a classroom environment and someone makes eye contact with me. My immediate response, again, is that this person's staring at me because I'm black. Fight or flight response kicks in. Body again starts experiencing discomfort because cortisol and hormones are being released. But again, I can't fight or flight. Just like the law school example, I have to sit there and freeze and experience that discomfort. So how did I, as an adult, learn how to freeze as a response to an environment that I perceive as being hostile? Intergenerational trauma. So what is intergenerational trauma? Intergenerational trauma is when there's an external experience that's experienced by one generation that now lives within subsequent generations. So I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and my grandfather was one of the first African Americans to integrate the steel mill unions in Pittsburgh. And because of that, he had to fight external racism a lot. He was also one of the first African Americans to purchase a home within a certain neighborhood in Pittsburgh. And because of that at home, he had to fight external racism a lot. Because he spent so much time fighting external racism, he became a very hard and unemotional man. And he expected the same thing from my father, that as a black male in the society, the world was going to be hostile to you. You could not show emotion or vulnerability. You'll be taken advantage of. That was the same environment that I grew up in. This environment that the world was going to be hostile because of my race, and I couldn't show emotion, I couldn't show vulnerability. And when you live in a world that both external real events and internally you believe that the world and life is going to be hostile because of your race, the body is constantly being triggered by being moved into situations where you're experiencing fight or flight. And you're constantly being triggered because you're constantly being surrounded by things that are triggering, which can be something very small, like being the only African American in a Catholic grade school. So when the body's constantly being triggered and experiencing this sense of discomfort, there's a tendency to want to escape that discomfort in the body. So common ways that people escape discomfort can be through alcohol, can be through food, can be through abuse of power, just different forms of behavior that lets one decide that they do not want to be present within the body. Me, at different points in my life, I escaped that discomfort with food, or even at times making jokes about being the only African American in a given environment. I was also socialized to believe that whiteness was the norm and the standard to follow and strive towards. I learned at a very early age if I wanted to succeed in society, I had to learn how not to be seen in predominantly white environments as being black. In that sense, I learned how not to see myself. In that sense, I learned how to freeze. So the external experience of racism experienced by my grandfather now internally lives within me. The experience of intergenerational trauma is not just limited to the black experience. Just think of generations of different messages that have been given to women that cause women to fear being fully present with their own bodies. The point is that most of us are showing up each day with some limiting belief of ourselves, that we're not worthy, we're not smart enough, we're not good enough, we don't belong. And when you have these limiting beliefs as to how you view yourself, you can't see your true self because you're refusing to see some aspect of yourself that gives you discomfort. And if you can't see your full self, you're viewing others through that same exact lens. And therefore you can't express empathy and you're not able to view the world from someone else. So how do we begin to break down these barriers that limit how we view ourselves and limit how we view the world? So it really starts with a healthy relationship with the mind and body. I moved to San Francisco in 2001, and my girlfriend at the time did yoga. So, I'm thinking I'm an athletic African-American male. I can do this thing that is pretty much advanced stretching. So doing yoga was one of the very first times in my life that I can recall that I stopped to really pay attention to my black body, the harm that it's received, the harm that it's caused, the beliefs that my body holds about how I view the world. And unlike other moments where the mind goes in fight or flight and I engage in some response to escape that discomfort, I'm forced to stay with that discomfort. I'm forced to be present with my body and with my thoughts and not respond. In that experience, I learned acceptance, forgiveness, and how not to respond to misguided beliefs or thoughts. Meditation, that present sense awareness, allows you to be present in this moment right now. And if you can be present in this moment right now, you can realize that you're not your beliefs, you're not your suffering, you're not your pain, you're not your past. The ability to focus on gentle body movements allows you to activate your prefrontal cortex, which is the noticing part of the brain. And that again allows you to notice that you're not your suffering, you're not your past. And also, your noticing part of the brain lets you engage in more self-regulation and bring more loving kindness to this moment. My mother tells the story of how, before I turned 2, she decided that she was going to leave my father. So my mother, with my cousin Marty, went and got my brother and sister from school, and with me, off we went. About an hour and a half into the journey, my mother heard me wheezing and realized that she forgot my asthma medication. Without blinking, my mother decided to go back, knowing that she could be putting herself in harm's way. My mother made a decision to break a cycle. At some point, we have to stop blindly moving forward and stop and choose a different direction. We too have to break a cycle of not seeing ourselves as complete, and a cycle of not seeing each other. This is a process that I cannot do alone. My mother could not do it alone. Martin Luther King would say that each of us is connected in a single garment of destiny and an inescapable network of mutuality. I want to see myself, and I also want to be able to see you. But in order for us to both do that, we all have to learn to embrace and awaken to the freedom of inclusivity. Thank you.